Hello, students. Welcome to our math lesson for today. We're taking lesson 95 in the Saxon Math book. The lesson 85 is entitled Reducing Rates Before Multiplying, and we're starting on page 493. So if you open up your books and then follow along on the lesson, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now, way back in lesson 70, I know it seems like it's a while ago, but in lesson 70, we took a look at multiplying fractions where we took 3/4 and we would multiply times 2/5, and we'd also multiply by 5/6. And we can go ahead and multiply across, but then after we get done multiplying, we got to figure out how to reduce. And sometimes those bigger numbers can be kind of confusing to reduce. So we talked about, before we do any multiplying whatsoever, let's reduce these numbers before we do any multiplying whatsoever. So I got to take a number that's on top, and I want to figure out, can I divide it with a number that's on the bottom? And if I take a look, I can divide by this top number here. I can divide by any of the numbers that are on the bottom. They don't necessarily have to be on top. They could be across each other, whatever. When I take a look at some of these numbers, I can reduce some of these here. I can reduce the 3 and the 6 because I can divide both 3 and 6. I can divide both those numbers by 3. So I take 3 divided by 3, which is 1. I'm going to take 6 divided by 3, which is 2. I'm going to keep doing that with some other numbers I see here. I got a 2 and a 4. I can go ahead and divide both of those numbers by 2. So this 2 becomes a 1 because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. I can also do that with my 5s. Divide both those numbers by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. I don't want to reduce these 2's right here because they're both on the bottom. The only way you can do this is if one of the digits is on top, and it can reduce with a digit that's on the bottom. So now I'm just going to go ahead and multiply across. Top number is pretty easy. I got 1 times 1 times 1. That means my numerator is going to be just 1. And then I take 4 times 1, 2 times 1, which is 2, and then multiply that by 2, and that's going to give me 4. So all of this right here is just a fancy way of writing the number 1/4. And you see how reducing that before you multiply makes that a little easier. Well, in today's lesson, we can do the same thing. We can cancel like we did on the previous problem, except we don't always have to cancel out numbers. We can also cancel out units. We can also cancel out words as long as one of the words is on top and one of the words on the bottom. So by canceling out the words, that means those words will not be part of the label answer. You're probably saying, what did you just say, Mr. Johnson? Well, let's take a look at an example. Here I got 4 miles per hour. Someone's going to travel at 4 miles per hour, and I'm going to take that, I want to multiply that by 2 hours. So we're traveling 4 miles per hour, and we're going to multiply that by 2 hours. So what I've done is I've taken the rate, which is right here, 4 miles per hour. That's the rate. That's the unit that we're talking about. So if I do 4 miles, I put 4 miles on top. Anytime you see that word per, that's where that fraction line comes into play. And then hour. Since there's no number out in front, this is called a unit rate. That means you're talking about 1 hour. So I just label that as 1 hour. So I have 4 miles in 1 hour. Now I'm going to multiply that by the 2 hours. And I wrote 2 hours, and we can write this as a fraction by simply putting it over 1. And now what I can do is I want to check, can I reduce? Now, I can't reduce the numbers because both the numbers are on top, but you should see that it has the word hour here and the word hours here. Even though it's plural, the only reason it's plural is because this number here is more than 1. But I can go ahead and cross out the word hour and cross out this hour. That means then that the word hour is not going to be in my final label over here. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 2. 4 times 2, we know that that is 8. And then I would take 1 times 1, which is 1. I don't have to put that over. But I do have the miles left. So my answer here is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and abbreviate it. It's going to be 8 miles. So if I do 4 miles per hour, and I do that over a period of 2 hours, that means I'm going to total travel 8 miles. Since rates are ratios of 2 different numbers, multiplying and dividing rates also involves multiplying and dividing the units. And the units mean the labels that go along with them. Here's another example. I'm going to multiply 55 miles per hour, and I'm going to do that by 6 hours. So here is my first ratio that I have, 55 miles per hour. And what I did is I wrote that as a fraction. 55 miles, that goes on top. The word per is there. So there's my fraction line, and then hour, that's the equivalent of 1 hour. So this person is traveling 55 miles in 1 hour. Now it told me to multiply, so I need to put the multiplication symbol in there. And I'm going to do that by 6 hours. So I'm going to multiply by 6 hours. And again, it's kind of like multiplying fractions. I have to put it over 1. Okay. Again, there's nowhere for me to reduce before I multiply as far as the digits are concerned. But here I see there's the word miles on top. There's no miles here, but I have the word hour on the bottom. I have the word hour on the top. So I can go ahead and cross those out. That means the word hour is not going to be in my final label. And now all I want to do is take 55 and I'm going to multiply that by 6. So when I take 55, multiply that by 6, the answer for that is going to be 330. So I put 330 and then 330 what? What's my label? Since the word miles is left over, I'm going to put miles down as my answer, and that is going to be the answer. So if I'm going 55 miles per hour, and now we're to sustain that over 6 hours, I'm going to travel a total distance of 330 miles. Here is another example, except what I like about this example is it put the rate on the back side of the problem and they have the other one on the front side. So they kind of switched them around. So what they're asking you to do is multiply 5 feet by 12 inches per foot. Okay, so here's my 5 feet, and I wrote 5 feet and I put that over 1 because that's all by itself. This right here is my rate, 12 inches per foot. So I put 12 inches, the word per is my fraction line, per foot. That'd be 12 inches per 1 foot. There's nowhere I can reduce number-wise, but I can reduce words. The word foot and feet can cross out. Again, the reason why this is feet, because this is more than one. But the word foot and the word feet, they can cancel out. The words can cancel out. Now I'm just going to multiply 5 times 12. 5 times 12 gives me the answer of 60. And then what's my label? Well, the only label I have left over is the word inches. So what this is saying is if I do 12 inches per foot and I do that over the course of 5 feet, I should be 60 inches. And that's what my answer is giving me. Whenever possible, they say to cancel numbers and units before you multiply. So for this particular problem here, not only are we going to try to cancel out units, but we are also going to try to cancel or at least reduce numbers before we multiply. So here, imagine the problem is you make 7 baskets in 10 shots, and then you take 100 shots. So then the question is going to be, how many baskets did you make? So I have 7 baskets over 10 shots, and I'll multiply that by 100 shots. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to get rid of my units here. So I've got the word shots here and the word shots here. So those can cancel out. I can also cancel out numbers because the numbers 10, right here, numbers 10 and numbers 100, both of those can be divided by 10. So if I take 10 divided by 10, that gives me 1. And if I take 100 divided by 10, that gives me 10. And so now if I multiply the bottom, I just got 1 times 1, and 1 times 1 is just 1. So now I have 7 times 10, which is 70. And so what's my label? The shots are gone. I just have the word baskets only. So I'm just going to put here baskets. I love writing with this little ink pen. But we're going to keep doing it anyways because it's good to have the full label. If I ask you to put labels on there, I should put labels on my answers too. So the answer would be 70 baskets. We go down a little farther here. I'm going to multiply 14 teachers. So there are 14 teachers, and those teachers have 23 students per teacher. So again, I would take my 14 over 1. So here's my original fraction, 14 over 1. And now I've got my units. My unit is going to be, my unit rate is 23 students per teacher. So I wrote the 23 on top. Here's the 23, and then the per is that fraction that we talked about, and then over 1 teacher. Now I want to check and see if I can reduce any of the digits before I multiply. I don't think I can reduce any of the digits here, but I should notice that there is the word teachers. Teachers on the bottom, teachers on the top, so I can go ahead and cross those out. And now by doing that, I have 1 times 1 on the bottom, which just happens to be 1. And now all I have to do is take 14 times 23. Now, I already did the math ahead of time. Trust me, boys and girls, I did the math ahead of time. And the final answer there is going to be 322. Now, it's going to be 322 what? What's my label? Well, the teachers are crossed out. The students are left. So my label is going to be, I have 322 students. That's going to be my label, okay? Because that's the only label that's left over. So you'll see a problem that's very similar to this in your assignment for today. It's going to solve this problem by multiplying two rates. And when you do two rates, this is exactly what we've been doing the previous problem. If I go back to the problem, this is a rate and this is a rate. So both of these are rates. These are two rates. These are two rates. So you're setting it up look like this. And here's the problem. How far will a train travel in 8 hours at 55 miles per hour? Okay, so that's what I'm asking. So how far will a rate travel? So the first rate that you're going to write down is 8 hours, which is 8 over 1. Okay, now here's my unit rate, 55 miles per hour. That's not exactly a straight line, but 55 miles per hour. I have 55 miles over, the word per is that fraction line again, over 1 hour. So I got 55 miles over 1 hour. I can't reduce anywhere digit-wise, but I can reduce words. Hours and hours, those can cancel out. And now I'm left with just 8 times 55. 8 times 55, the multiplication on that is going to be 440. And 440 what? What's going to be in my label? It's going to be miles for it. So it'll be 440 miles. Okay. So hopefully this helps you understand this lesson a little bit better. That's pretty much all it is. You're just changing those rates. You're going to reduce the rates before you do any multiplying whatsoever. So your assignment for today is going to be to do pages 494 and 495, and we're going to do letters A through 23. If at any time you have any questions, please reach out to me. I am here to help you as best I can. And so hopefully everything goes well for you guys. And until next time, we will see you.